You didn't know your rights, and you took a CPS drug test during a Child Protective Services investigation. The investigator is telling you that you tested positive for marijuana and is threatening to take your kids away from you. Under a new Texas law, CPS now has more restrictions when it comes to marijuana use, and you need to know how to stop them in their tracks. First and foremost, if you haven't yet taken a CPS drug test, and you found this video while trying to determine if you have to submit to their test, go check out our Fighting CPS Interrogations video first. If you already took the test, or are considering submitting to the test, then you need to know your rights from this point forward. At the beginning of every CPS investigation, CPS loves asking parents to go take drug tests, whether there are allegations of drug use or not. This is one of their methods of fishing for enough information in order to take kids out of your home and put them into state-run foster care. Unfortunately, thousands of parents and caregivers give up their right to be free from warrantless searches and consent to these tests every year. You might wonder, why do these parents submit to these tests? Some parents think that they have to submit to the test, while many others think that they have nothing to hide. Unfortunately, not all drug tests are created equal, which sometimes leads to false positive results. CPS has a history of removing children from their homes, placing them in foster care, and seeking the termination of parental rights due to a parent's one-time positive drug test. Scary, right? Under a new law passed in 2021, it is now illegal for CPS to remove children from their homes based on evidence that the parent tested positive for marijuana. What that means is that CPS can't take possession of a child based solely on that positive drug test. However, that word solely leaves some significant wiggle room. Under the new law, if a parent tests positive for marijuana, CPS cannot remove the children unless the department has evidence that the parent's use of marijuana has caused significant impairment to the child's physical or mental health or emotional development. That means they'll have to do a lot more fishing. That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I can't answer that question for you because that is your decision to make. However, let me ask you these questions and then you can decide for yourself whether you should take that test. Have you used any controlled substances within the last 180 days? Depending on the test required, controlled substances may be detected as far back as 6 months. If you have taken a controlled substance, was it legal marijuana? Marijuana is legal in many states these days, but not Texas. The test doesn't reveal what state you were in when you used it. Are you 100% sure that you only consumed marijuana? Street drugs are notoriously laced with other addictive substances to fuel the market. If you didn't grow it yourself, how sure are you that it hasn't been contaminated with something worse? Have you taken any prescribed medications or over-the-counter medications within the past 180 days? There are several medications that can lead to false positive drug test results, according to a recent article out of the School of Medicine at USC. Additionally, poppy seeds and some baby washes, in addition to other medications, may even lead to false positive urine tests, according to an article published in the U.S. National Library of Medicine. How confident are you in the integrity of the testing facility that CPS chose for you to take a test at? In casinos, the house always wins. I don't have any evidence that samples taken at CPS chosen labs have been tampered with, but I have personally handled several cases where my client took a test for CPS at their lab and then took a test at a lab that I chose, but only tested positive at the CPS lab. In short, if you're considering taking a CPS drug test, ask yourself, what do I have to prove? You don't have to prove to the government that you have not abused or neglected your children in order to remain a parent. Instead, the government has to prove that you have abused or endangered them if the government wants to remove your children or terminate your parental rights. Next, ask yourself, what do I stand to gain? If you take a CPS drug test and it comes back negative, do you think that CPS will magically disappear and leave you alone? Chances are that a negative drug test will not satisfy an aggressive CPS investigator, and you'll still be asked to permit them to search your home, submit to lengthy interrogations, and undergo voluntary services to make sure that you don't use drugs in the future. I've actually seen this happen myself. Finally, ask yourself, what do I stand to lose? If your CPS drug test result comes back positive for an illegal drug, even if it's a false positive, then CPS now has additional evidence to use against you when they file a petition to remove your children and terminate your parental rights. How long will your children sit in a foster home while you fight to prove that the test you voluntarily took was a false positive? Quick plug. If you support parents' rights and videos like this, hit the like button because then YouTube will show it to more people. First, I know that I haven't given you any specific advice yet, but that's by design. I'm not here to provide you with any legal advice because every situation is different. If you want specific advice, then you need to talk to an attorney that can evaluate your situation. However, I can tell you about my situation. As a parent, here's how I would deal with an investigator asking me to submit to a CPS drug test. Mind you, I don't use drugs, I don't even drink, I don't take any medications, and I don't routinely eat any of the foods that sometimes cause false positives. Even with all that in mind, I would still refuse to submit to a CPS drug test. It's not that I have anything to hide, I just wholeheartedly embrace my Fourth Amendment right to be free from invasive searches. So, make your own decisions about submitting to a CPS drug test, but be prepared to live with the consequences of whatever decision you make. If you haven't seen our Fighting CPS Interrogations video yet, you can find that right here. From all of us here at Matthew Harris Law, we appreciate you sharing this video with the parents in your circle.